This was probably early 20s, and it happened at this place is actually real and exists, and you can go to. And I suggest people go to it because if you go there, you might see a ghost there, or something might happen. It's the Shaker in Enfield, New Hampshire, and so a few different things happened there. And so one of the first things I'll say is we were. So this is I was there with my girlfriend. I had been working there, so I was working there for a few weeks, and this one time we were sleeping in one of the rooms, and in the middle of the night, it's about 4:30 in the morning. My girlfriend, she wakes me up, and above us was what I would call the haunted floor. So we were on the third floor, and there's like a fourth, and I think a fifth floor. And I can get into some other stories, but with my personal story, with this, we woke up, and and we both were hearing this kind of like, if you can hear like what I'm going to do on the desk here, this scraping kind of motion, almost as if someone was just kind of scraping their feet across the floor, like.
Yep.
So she was all freaked out, and we knew this place was haunted, and there's a lot of stuff that happens here. And so she was all freaked out, and she was like, "Hey, Vinny, what's going on? You know, is this a ghost? What's happening?" And I immediately knew, I'm like, "Oh yes, this is the ghost," in my head, but I didn't want to freak her out. So I was like, "It's nothing. Just go to sleep. Go to sleep. Go back to bed." And I listened to this thing keep going above my head for like a half hour or 40 minutes or so until it stopped, eventually stopped. And then I went back to sleep. And I woke up in the morning and I told her, I was like, "Hey, that was the ghosts." And so I didn't want to freak you out. And she's like, "Okay." And we went up there to that, that more haunted floor of this place at the Shaker Inn, and just to look around and see like what was going on. Was anything out of the ordinary? And it's mostly an empty room. Her and her mother, her mother was like owned it at the time, and or was leasing it at the time. And there's just some boxes and whatever up there. So it was almost as if someone was taking one of those boxes and maybe just moving it around, but nobody was up there. And even, this is the interesting thing, even with the ceiling and everything, it almost, thinking back on the event, it doesn't make sense that loud of a noise would even be coming through from the ceiling. So it was kind of just, it's just very odd and creepy. And for a place that's known for a lot of haunted things happening there, that was certainly one of them that I experienced.
That's a weird one. What was, did you look in the boxes?
Yeah, it was just their personal stuff. Sorry, it was just their personal stuff. So like it was, very innocuous stuff. But that level is, how can I put it? There wasn't really, it wasn't made out for like a hotel or an inn up there. It's got like, so that place used to be a school, and there's other stuff that was going on there. So the Shakers were a Christian group. And so this guy who started it his name was Caleb Dwyer, who was actually shot on the front steps there. So the story goes because, again, he had this school there. The parents would send their children there to this kind of boarding school, and they would, be taught a particular kind of religious education. Well, one of these fathers, he didn't like the religious education that his children were receiving, and Caleb didn't want to give him the guy his children back when he was like, "Hey, give him my kids back." And so he was up there, and Caleb was like, "No, I'm not going to give you the kids back," and he got shot on the front steps.
Wow.
So it's there's probably been, a lot of death over time in that place, just naturally or unnaturally, as it were, over time.
Right.
And
were there stories of like his ghost or anything like that?
Yes, people say when they drive by, people say there's a bell tower up there. So people say they see somebody in the bell tower, like a shadow figure in the bell tower. There probably are reports of people seeing ghosts, or a ghost of Caleb up on the front steps, from what I can recall. But even inside, you just it can give you the creeps. Like there's, especially if you're like we were, like especially working there, you're out late at night. And all the lights will be off, so you want to go downstairs and get a drink, say, from the bar or whatever, and you would just feel like you're being watched. You would feel like something would happen. But that's where what I would like to get to then, leading to the second time that was there. So this event, especially for me like I mentioned before, with my biology background, with a science background, this one was very great because there was what I'd call interaction with the phenomena, which a lot of people don't seem to get with phenomena. And so whether I always try to think to myself, could I chalk it up to coincidence? Sure. But being the history of this place and what happened, So The second time, I'm again with my girlfriend. We're sitting downstairs in the bar there, just having drinks, just us. Everything's kind of closed. People are in their beds, whatever. It's like probably a little bit after 8. And all of a sudden, the lights and the TV and everything start flickering on and off and on and off and on and off. And it kind of stops, but everything's still kind of like, and the TV, there was something going on weird with the TV. I can't quite remember now, but I'll probably be able to remember later. But the TV was kind of humming, and there was something kind of weird with that. And especially the way the TV even acted when everything was flickering on and off. It wasn't like when someone turns the TV regularly on and off. Everything was kind of strange. And that was enough. So the lights were kind of like almost on brighter than they were when they initially started. And so immediately I was like, oh my God, do that again. And so as soon as I finished my sentence, everything started flickering on and off again and then went back to normal. And so, my girlfriend at the time, she's looking at me kind of a little freaked out, but also like, we were like, oh my God, this is really cool. Like this was like, especially like me with having the presence of thought to say like, hey, can you do this again right away? Like, come on, do it again. And for it to happen again too, almost on command in that regard. Now, it was just, it was really interesting. It was really kind of fun. Like, so, especially as opposed to a lot of people's ghost stories where they're like, especially listening to this podcast, you hear a lot of scary stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this was much more playful, much more like, not, it was, things can be jarring, but not like, nothing was hurt. No one's, you're never going to come away from it being like, that was scary. Especially that second time, it was much more playful. Mm-hmm. And I can even get into some stories that like happened there also that were like more playful, but that weren't my own, that weren't of my own experience. But that one especially was very interesting. And to try and chalk it up to coincidence, you could after the fact, but it's one of those things like a skeptic could always dismiss it. They could always be like, well, like I've told the story before to other people, and someone was like, it's just probably bad wiring, and the fact that you said that right at the right time was just all coincidence. Mm-hmm. Maybe, or who knows? Yeah. So that's just one of those things that
I don't believe in coincidence. It's weird. The one real story I've had with something like some entity, I interacted with it and I asked it to do something again, turning the ceiling fan on, and I watched it happen. It was very bizarre, and I couldn't explain it for the life of me. And it was in a house that I was very accustomed to, not an old house I'd been to my whole life where my grandparents lived. And I noticed it happening, and then I talked to it, and it happened. It was very bizarre. But yeah, if you want to share another one of those stories from the house.
Which really quick, Shane, I want to say too, I'm usually the resident skeptic here, and I can tell you, while a lot of the time I do look for, like plausible information to try to answer the questions that I have, I've also seen shit that I can't explain. Mm-hmm. And I think when it comes right down to it, a big part of that fear factor is just the fact that you can't explain it right away. Mm-hmm. And humans are inherently scared of things that they don't understand. So while I tend to think most stuff is bullshit, I never rule out anything because I don't know myself until it's been proven. And when you don't have any proof, it's hard to really, put a lid on that. So,
yep.
But by all means, continue.
So that leads me to like a Terrence McKenna quote, I think, was with what he said was, the UFO is amorphous and undefined. And that's something that's kind of always a thing with any of these stories. And that's kind of what makes it out of the realm of science, because you literally can't test it. And in this regard, any of these kind of incidences and UFOs and all this kind of stuff is by definition a pseudoscience, because it can't, unless we find an alien body, or we can somehow take a ghost into a lab and be like, hey, that's a ghost in a jar. You can't actually create a real model without a lot of direct observation, and no scientist is doing anything to try and find direct observation. And it's like, for me personally, it's like, and even I've talked to other legit scientists like in university, it's like they've had ghost stories, but what really happened, who knows.